In the early months of 1941, the war raged in the Atlantic. The German Navy, known as the Kriegsmarine, were sinking Allied supply ships at an alarming rate. The Royal Navy was more than capable of taking the Germans on, but there was one problem. They had no idea when or where these attacks would take place. Every German transmission intercepted by the Allies seemed like complete gibberish. Even when progress was made by Allied codebreakers, it didn't last. The next day, all the work seemed irrelevant again. The source of this problem? The German military's use of the Enigma machine, a cipher device that encrypted their messages, making them nearly impossible to crack. Developed after World War I by a German engineer called Arthur Scherbus, the Enigma machine was initially used for civilian purposes, including businesses and communications, but by the late 30s it became a core part of the German military. In 1938, Polish codebreakers had managed to decipher the Enigma once, but the Germans quickly upgraded it, rendering the Polish breakthrough completely useless. As World War II broke out, the British government set up a team of cryptographers at Bletchley Park in Buckinghamshire, a stately country house that would become the heart of Allied intelligence. Among them was a brilliant mathematician from Manchester, Allan Turing. Turing was placed in charge of Hut 8, the section dedicated solely to cracking the Enigma code. Prior to Bletchley Park, he had been at the Government Code Breaking and Cipher School, which would later become GCHQ. In the early days, Turing and his team made little headway. They worked around the clock, driven by the knowledge that lives were at stake. But despite their tireless efforts, the Enigma machine seemed impenetrable. But then, in 1941, a great turning point came. A German U-boat was captured by the Royal Navy ship Bulldog, and on board they found something crucial: a working Enigma machine and its associated codebooks. This was sent back to Bletchley Park, where Turing and his team eagerly got to work. What they uncovered was vital: the Enigma machine's mechanism. It was a complex device, a circuit board with 3 interchangeable rotors, each labelled with numbers. The machine had also a typewriter-like keyboard with lights above to indicate which letter would be the encrypted output. Each time a letter was pressed, the machine's gear turned, and the light displayed the encrypted letter. However, the encryption wasn't simple. You could press the letter F and it would output J one time, and then you could press it again and it output the letter S. It was this unpredictability that made the Enigma so difficult to crack. There were 5 gears, and depending on the code for the day, the user had to insert 3 different gears, each set to one of 26 different starting positions. After this, there were 10 plugs that could be set in over 150 trillion ways. This led to 158 quintillion, 962 quadrillion, 555 trillion, 217 billion, 826,376,000 different possibilities. Each German unit received a book every month with the codes for each day written in dissolvable ink, so it could be easily destroyed before it could be captured. The Germans were sure this code was unbreakable, and to be fair, with that many codes you can see why. But in fact there was a way to crack it, a fatal flaw in its design overlooked by German engineers. Any letter ran through the machine would never give the same letter as an output. For example, if you pressed F, every other letter could be an output except for the letter F. And that means when you reorganise the plug board and press the same letter over and over, the only one that doesn't light up is your encrypted letter. But with that many combinations, this could take a while. So what's the answer? There's 158 quintillion possibilities. Well, Turing, being the genius that he was, designed a machine that could simulate many Enigma settings at once. All that needed to be done by Turing and his team was to input the last 2 words of a message, which would almost always be Heil Hitler. His machine would then go through all settings until it spat out the word Heil Hitler. After this, they then set their machine to that setting. Due to this, decoding Enigma encrypted messages went from taking a lifetime to minutes. Turing called this the bomb. With the code cracked, the Allies knew what was coming and where from. Allied troops were ready for anything the Axis powers could throw at them. The flaw in the Enigma was fixed by British engineers and is thought to be unbreakable and is still used today. Due to this, the Atlantic War was won, and well-needed supplies reached Britain at a steady rate, bringing the Axis powers to its knees. It is predicted that the breaking of the Enigma code shortened World War II by 2 years and saved an estimated 14 million lives, all thanks to Turing's genius. For his work, he was given the Order of the British Empire and was made a Fellow of the Royal Society. Allan Turing paved the way for modern computing and AI, and it is likely you would not be watching this video without him. But at the time it was not widely known, as everything was kept in secrecy. He was given no compassion and received no special treatment when it came out he was a homosexual in 1952. At this time, homosexuality was a crime known as indecency, and he was arrested and pled guilty. He was forced into chemical castration and was no longer allowed to work for the government as a codebreaker. He lost everything he had worked for. Sadly, 2 years after this, he was found dead at home from cyanide poisoning, which was ruled to be suicide. He was 41 years old. After this, Turing fell into obscurity, and everyone largely forgot about the man who played such a large role in stopping fascism and ending the war. Many were greatly indebted to him. They forgot him, until quite recently. Allan Turing was posthumously pardoned by the UK government in 2013 for his conviction of gross indecency due to his homosexuality. He had been chemically castrated and subjected to other humiliations after his conviction in 1952. Additionally, Turing's critical role in World War II, particularly his work in breaking the German Enigma code, was formally recognised long after the war. In 2014, a blue plaque was placed in honour at his former home, and his contributions were celebrated publicly. His scientific and wartime efforts were long underappreciated, but by the 21st century the recognition of Turing's importance became much more widespread. Turing also had a law named after him. The Allan Turing law granted pardons to men who had been convicted of consensual same-sex acts that are no longer considered crimes under modern law. This law also allowed living individuals who had been convicted of such offences to apply for a pardon. It was a symbolic recognition of the injustices faced by Turing and many others in the similar situations, and it marks an important moment in the UK's progression towards rights and acknowledgement of past wrongs. There was a film made after him called The Imitation Game, and I highly recommend you watch it. It is brilliant. Thanks for watching.